to another garden vlog. And today is kind of a sad day, and we knew it was coming when we built that, or we tried to start working on that last raised bed for like a bean vegetable garden. We planned to put peanuts in here, but look at this. We've been storing these so long that pantry moths got into them. And we did 3, 4, 5 months ago a water soak on a big handful of these guys and planted them out, and a lot of them still actually sprouted, but they probably will not be good next year, unfortunately. And these are the Virginia Giant peanuts. Some of them still look viable, but these pantry moths are just going to continue to decimate them. So I don't know if we should bury some, see what happens, but cold weather is going to happen before these guys are harvested, I would imagine. So probably just put them in the compost. During the last garden vlog, we kind of did our Mexican style lager video, portion near the end of the video. Now we're going to do this one, the RIO Mexican style cerveza from Guatemala, I believe. Light lager. So it's a light beer. This is the second episode or whatever of a light beer journey, and another episode of our Mexican style cerveza. And the reason why I have a light beer is because I think they were sold out. They were on sale, and the regular ones were sold out, and I kind of wish I had the regular. But let's see what this tastes like. It smells very refreshing, very watery, very light. It's a light beer. From what I can tell looking in there, it's definitely got a yellow tinge to the liquid. Let's give her a taste. So we've had kind of the light style beers, kind of like that. What's the one we had last time? The Dos Equis. So, it's kind of a light, refreshing tasting beer that isn't a light beer. And then we had the Stella Artois, which is a Belgian style non-wheat beer that also had that very light taste despite not being a light beer. And the first light beer on our journey here was the Brewmaster's Premier Light, which Walmart had on sale for $5 for a 12-pack. Now RIO goes on sale quite a bit. I think it's normally 18 or 20 bucks a case, but it goes on sale for $13.99, $15.99, $17.99. So it's a relatively inexpensive beer in almost all cases. Very few times have I went to like Winn-Dixie and seen it full price. So I've read a few reviews on this RIO beer. Some people say it's sweet, it's caramelly. Some people say metallic. Some people say chemical. I think it's mostly decent reviews, positive reviews, full flavored. But a few people seem to not like it. And RIO here, this definitely does not have any bitterness. But how would I rank it based on, the light beers that I've tried so far and the light flavored beers that aren't light? I would say this is the worst so far, but that doesn't mean this is bad. Is it good? Is it very good? Is it great? And I want to say somewhere between okay and good. For the price, I guess it's okay. I think I'm going to have to try the non-light version to really see what, this beer is all about. So my favorite light style beer is that Dos Equis, even though it's not a light beer. And my favorite light beer out of the two so far have been that Brewmaster's Premier Light. But, this is even cheaper than that. So if you think, well, Brewmasters is a Walmart brand like Sam's Colas or whatever. Sam's Colas are pretty awful to me. But a 12-pack of that Brewmasters, I'm assuming it's around 10 bucks. I'm also assuming it's going to go on sale quite frequently. They released that a variety of beers and lagers and stuff that are supposed to be clones of like Coors Light and a variety of other brews. Michelob Ultra, possibly Bud Light if they've released their clone of that. That's, you know, supposedly is either out or is coming out soon. And they have that Cerveza, which is supposed to be like a clone of Modelo, a special or whatever. Not really, you know, in my light beer journey far enough along to give some kind of official rating, but let's just say we put out a top beer rating, ale, lager, whatever, of 7. And if we put that Dos Equis at a 5, and 7 is the possibly unattainable best tasting, you know, that we just don't know yet, I would probably say the RIO Light Lager is probably about a 3.5. It's not bad, but it doesn't quite have the flavor that I like. Again, and this is from somebody that generally doesn't like the taste of beer. So if you're a beer connoisseur and you like that dark, that bitterness, hoppiness, then this probably isn't for you, this video. Well, it is the next day, and I have some kind of closing thoughts on this RIO Light Lager Cerveza before we get into the gardening portion of this beer and gardening vlog. I'm going to compare RIO Light with Dos Equis and say that Dos Equis is something that I would drink because I was thirsty. I would somewhat enjoy it, and I could drink it off and on all day, not for a buzz or anything like that. However, RIO Light, just not as tasty to me, not as good to me. And if I were, stuck with a cheap beer and didn't have like a liquor store around, I would probably have to drink this as fast as possible and maybe even put it in the freezer for, an extra 15 minutes to try to get it down until I got a buzz. So am I looking for a buzz, a cheap buzz? Not really. I'm looking for a beer that tastes good on my beer journey. Something interesting and something tasty. And I have to question, whether or not I, want to try the RIO non-light in this journey. I have so much time, only so much money to spend, tasting different things. And there may be a couple other things that, I know the taste profile should be similar from the light to the full flavored beer. It should just be a little bit watered down tasting for the light one. So we'll just see how it goes. On to the garden vlog. Unless the kids mess it up. Okay, so we probably got a few things to talk about. When we ended the last video, and these videos may not even be uploaded in order, we talked about, getting some avocados and a couple white spuds, like indexing, counting everything and seeing what we might need to replant or plant in our yard, and getting things ready to donate to the local garden communities. Some of them will probably be raffled off. Some of them will just be, if we have enough, just given away to whoever grabs them. First come, first serve. But we have a few that are planted in the ground that we did, I guess on video a couple months ago. Some of them did look good, bad, kind of went back and forth. And, a lot of plants in pots and in the ground are just acting strange lately. I don't know if it's the weird weather. And we talked about, going from drought to flood, like, back and forth over the last few months. And, cool nights like in the 60s, hot days, 89 to like 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It's just something going on here. I don't know what is causing so many plants to just droop and look so bad. Maybe these dry fall winds, you know, even though it's not quite fall yet, we're getting kind of that fall type weather here. Maybe those dry winds are pulling excess moisture out of the ground and excess moisture out of the pots and just causing them, making it hard for them to keep moisture, you know, to retain moisture. So even when we supplement, you know, water, you know, when we see things drooping, it just may not be good enough. We might have to just hope that the weather improves. That is the only thing I can think about. And you can see we're almost continuously in like a little windy state here. See all those leaves moving up there? I'll also correct one thing I said in the last video. I said we probably don't need to plant any more jaboticabas, but guess what? I planted mostly the little jaboticabas that weren't doing well in the ground, so maybe I'll pick out one or two nice larger ones to plant in the ground just to see if it gives them a little better chance of surviving the winter. But we still have a few really nice ones here to donate. Like those Sabaras really didn't do well for us. This is the only one we got in a pot left. You know, I'm conflicted on whether to keep it or get rid of it, but I think this is going to make somebody happy, so maybe we should donate this one Sabara here. And this is a nice dark green red hybrid here. I mean, we got some that have a few faded leaves that are probably still fine. Maybe it's just been in too much shade or something. I'll probably donate either one at a time, or maybe do a pair, you know, a Sabara and a red hybrid for raffling. So yeah, these guys are $25 usually in the local nursery, you know, at least the hybrids, I think, that are this size, so year and a half old or whatever. And you can see how much bigger the red hybrids are versus these little Sabaras. You know, that even though this pot is bigger, you can see the dirt level is about the same on these guys. And for here, boom, we're at like double the growth here. Wish I could get a tape measure out here and show you guys. But look at the bushiness on this Sabar and the smaller leaf sizes. Way different growth. I just found another red hybrid here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 7 red hybrids, nice looking ones, and 1 really nice looking Sabar. Let's very briefly talk about pomegranates since we haven't talked too much about them. So many of the pomegranates we did over the years have just died. Some of them have kind of just lingered there, and including one of my wonderfuls in the back area outside of wetland zone 1, a little bit higher ground. And it too is struggling with this weather. But, you know, I think this whole season and the end of last season, a lot of it was about getting back, you know, giving back to the community. And when can we do that with pomegranates? We only have 2 pomegranate shrubs in the highest areas that are doing pretty decent, I think. So we are probably technically could take cuttings this winter or whatever, or spring, next spring, and root some, but not in a super Spitfire hurry to do that, because I'm trying to focus on their health and growth right now. Give it another year or 2. Let's see how much growth they get. Let's see if they bloom, produce any fruit or anything, and then maybe have a really whole lot of plant material if everything goes good in the next year or 2 to do a pretty massive amount of cuttings and try to root some for the community. And if you watched our last video in its entirety, I know it's pretty long. You might say, well, weren't you saying you were only going to potentially give back to the community for 2 or 3 or 4 years or whatever? I was talking about the potential to move to a small nursery or something, and start selling plants. The possibility, and I talked about if it happened, it would kind of naturally just flow in that direction. I'm not going to push it, but I also talked about the reasons why I wanted to give back to the community, because a lot of the local garden community members give me a lot of my plant material for free, no charge. Even when I offered to trade, there's people that had a lot, they would say, okay, I don't need anything. They would occasionally have a want or something that they didn't have, but very rarely. And I gave them, like one of those burro bananas. I gave some, I think some of these improved elderberry cuttings and stuff. And you see right there, very hard to keep track of any sort of what we're trying to talk about, because we're constantly being interrupted. It's very hard to do this. This is why sometimes it takes 3-4 days a week, and I probably seem like I'm scrambling between different topics. Anyway, because people give me so much, and because there are a lot of things, I also talked about this, there are a lot of things that people don't even know about that they can grow here, or if they have the right microclimate, maybe cattleya guavas, maybe other things like cassava, and maybe these jaboticabas, possibly white sapotes. I know that there were microclimates in Gainesville, Florida, that had a white sapote tree, and it produced a lot of fruit until the city or store owner, mall complex owner, whatever it was, decided to knock everything down and re-landscape. So we know there are some successes with many things that people wouldn't think they can grow here, or just don't know anything about, just like pawpaws. Most people don't know about pawpaws. Probably more people now know about pawpaws just because of the internet, but most people 20 years ago didn't know, and still a lot of people don't know now. As well as fruits like yangmei, is that what it's called? Cherry guavas and guabijus. Most people don't even know how to pronounce it. Probably not even me, but I know about them. All right, we're taking 3 things: a Celeste fig, a GHB avocado seedling, and a red hybrid jaboticaba to give to some of the local gardeners here. So it's been another day and a half or so since I worked on this video, Annie, and we were taking those plants to somebody, local garden community, and we've given plants to these people before. When I walked into their yard, I was kind of disheartened, because some of those plants were laying in their yard, not potted, not planted in the ground, and sickly, dead, or dying. My first thought was, let's not even give them these other plants. Let's not even give them anymore. But I gotta remember this weird weather patterns we've had, where things just look so bad, despite it not being too hot, despite it not being too cold. Just this dry air. You don't need to stop. This dry wind is just sucking the moisture out of these plants. So unless they were in the ground, and even if they were, things, may have went the same direction either way. Although on some level, I think there's probably a little bit of ignorance in care. Just because somebody loves flowers and plants and stuff doesn't mean they, especially when they don't pay for those plants, they get them free. People, obviously, people like me spend our time trying to, if you can even hear me with all these kids screaming back here, and the mosquitoes, y'all shouldn't be hearing these mosquitoes. They're too bad. So if they're free, some people may not appreciate that quite as much, and they may let these plants just suffer more so than ones that they would pay top dollar for, unfortunately. Now, I have had people give me plants that have died, but it wasn't, in my opinion, the lack of trying to keep them alive. I'm not going to put anything, just throw it, in a corner in a bright, sunny, dry spot and not try to take care of it. If I'm watering it every day or every other day and it still looks bad, I'm going to put it in the shade and try my best to make sure it thrives. So yeah, I ended up saying, do you want me to plant these plants? And I did not plant the fig because it was just transplanted, but I put it in a shady spot. And they have an area kind of like my mulberry ICU, except their plants aren't dead yet. But I think... What?
I need you to read this because I searched down how can you find ghosts.
Are y'all looking for ghosts?
Yes.
Are y'all finding any?
Well, this area feels warm.
What is that on your hand? Is that your proton pack?
Oh yeah.
What is that?
This is the PT, that's my. And this is
your coach proton pack?
Yeah, my
Your
breath. And this is the PT, Can you see how to find ghost on
Anyway, if I observe something like this, maybe I'll start offering, do you want me to plant this for you? Do you want me to try to find a good spot for it? And help out just a little bit. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to take my new plants and just leave with them and say, oops, I forgot them. Or maybe even grab some of those plants that look like they're dying and try to save them. But hey, that's just who I am. But let's try not to focus on the negative and try to move forward, until we get done with this season of the garden vlog here. Let's talk about plants. Was it Kentucky State University or one of these programs in Kentucky or another state, I can't remember, Department of Forestry, I think. They routinely sell like bundles of pawpaws, I think Chinese chestnuts, maybe plums and a few other things, and a variety of probably oaks and stuff like that. And I was kind of waiting for them to open up orders this year, which is in September sometime. Unfortunately they opened up the orders, and within a day or two of opening them, they sold them all out. So there goes that bundle of 100 pawpaws I was considering. I didn't know if I had the money for it, but I was thinking about it. And even though they sold out, they said that they will recalculate how much seedlings and stuff that they have, I guess, in the future, and they may open it up a few times for new orders, pre-orders or whatever, before they close out for the season. But chances are, my chances are slim to none. Maybe next year, I guess. The funny thing about now and, just in the last few months is I haven't, as far as I can know or remember, bought any new plants from local nurseries. Haven't bought anything online except some cuttings a few months back from mulberries and a few other things, which is kind of strange for me. And I really honestly don't know if I'm going to buy any plants next season versus possibly rootstock, most likely some scion wood or something, cuttings. I just don't have any. If you said what's my next plant, what's my next tree, shrub that I'm going to buy at a nursery, I would probably say I don't know. I think it's probably a natural evolution when you're big into plants to sort of slide into that area where you're propagating your own plants and you have a lot, and you're hopefully propagating your rootstock if you're grafting, and only getting scion wood and new plants through cuttings. And since I most likely missed the opportunity to get those pawpaw seedlings, I could be looking into just getting, pawpaw seeds and cold stratifying them and creating rootstock for potential grafting material as well. Well, it's another day, and it's almost 6 p.m., almost dinner time, and I actually got up out here with my phone, camera, or whatever, and was going to start recording about 8:30 a.m., but the kids just drove me absolutely insane. I could not even hit that record button. So then I was going to mow, maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And I had to work on the lawnmower again, I got the battery charger that's got a short in it, trying to minimize that. And every time I have to mow, have to charge the battery. And every time I have to mow, I have to air up 3 tires. And I ended up working like 2 or 3 hours. The battery cables got loose, so they wasn't charging quite as well, even though they're never charging great because of that battery charger with the short in it. So we did 2 rounds of mowing. I probably got a little bit more to do. And again, like I said, it's almost dinner time, so Natalie and the kids are going to be wanting to eat soon. But I just read a headline that said that coffee grounds isn't good to put directly into the soil or around your plants because they hinder growth. Now, a lot of people put these coffee grounds around their plants to prevent slugs. So does it function for that? But is it also hindering the growth of your plants? And this article said that you need to wait at least 2 months in the compost for it to be good. So you need to compost your grounds into a soil, have the worms and bacteria and microbes and stuff just run through those coffee grounds, process them a little bit better before you actually use them. How true is that? I didn't go into detail to see too much, but this was in like a place that commercially did this in Ecuador. All their used spent coffee grounds were put into like a 2-acre field or something like that. I've also been talking to a few local gardeners, and some of them are saying that because this little drought we're in, they're losing plants, and their plants are dying, and they cannot keep the plants happy despite supplementally watering them. Again, this weather amazes me, and when I was going mowing today, I seen a lot of the Biden's alba weeds that seem like they are not bothered by anything, just withered today before I mowed a lot of them down. Well, I think I'm going to plant some more of these big giant squash seeds. All the ones I planted previously either died quickly or just laid stagnant and didn't grow and eventually died. I don't think I have a single one alive. Maybe a little bit too late in the season, but let's see. So I just went out and measured the tallest pawpaw root suckers, which were about 2 years old, still growing. Probably still, that tallest one has probably got at least 2 to 3 foot of growth over the last month or so. Just one, I thought maybe it's going to slow down. It's still probably growing every day until we get to that fall dormancy mode. So the tallest one currently is roughly at 12 foot. The medium one is roughly at 10 foot. And the smallest one is roughly 8 foot, about the same height as its parent tree, which was installed definitely before 2014, maybe in 2010 to 13, sometime around that mango cultivar that's grafted. That mango cultivar is supposedly known for growing super fast and super large, in a small amount of time, but that just didn't happen. So this kind of reinforces my relatively new this season theory that you should always wait for the vigor to come out of these pawpaws, whether it's, if you get lucky and get this first seedling seed, grafted tree or whatever, producing this far south, this far southeast, below the Florida Panhandle, getting that vigor. It may not be that seedling you plant. It may not be that seed. It may not be that grafted cultivar you put in the ground. But 3, 5, 10, 15 years later, however long it takes, that root suckers, the root sucker or multiple root suckers forming and shooting up these majorly big around, tall, fast growing suckers from, the roots that formed from these original seedlings or grafted cultivars. Are these plants just sending their roots all around looking for the best soil, or are they looking for the best amount of sunlight, or both, before they say, okay, I'm going to take over and I'm going to be a strong growing plant? Now you can graft onto me, or just let me grow and see what kind of fruit I produce. How many more days, weeks, or months is it going to continue to vigorously grow, especially that 12-foot one, before fall dormancy kicks in? Is it going to get up 13, 15 foot or more? The sad thing is, it just has beaten expectations so much that, and it came up right under a power line. So right now at 12 foot, it is basically right at the same height as the power line. Maybe a little bit more because it's drooping just, instead of straight up at the top, there's a little droop. It might be 3 or 4 inches above that power line. But we are going to let it max out until the end of the season to see where it stops. Maybe make a video, maybe take a measuring tape out there and show you guys how tall it is before we prune it down significantly lower and probably just do some grafts on it. Just when you thought like the pawpaw stuff has died out, getting a little something like this, getting a glimpse of something different and maybe positive, all these little things add up and you get excited again. And you're a little bit more reinvigorated. And because of all these little things here and there, including getting root suckers for the first time on several grafted or seedling plants, and seeing how vigorous they grow, seeing that they're trying to make themselves pop up in better locations, more sunny, just a little bit more sunlight here, a little bit more sunlight there, maybe a little bit more moist or dry soil here. Maybe this is a little bit better over here. This is a little bit more acidic over there. All these little things are the trees trying to thrive, survive, and remember, pollination isn't the only thing that keeps pawpaw patches alive. You can have a single tree that never gets pollinated, never produces fruit, that survives through root suckers. But the good thing is that as our pawpaws get more sunlight, they get more happy, they get more vigor, they're going to grow higher into the air. So that smell from those flowers, these stinky flowers, that some people say smells like putrid, rotting meat, will attract more pollinators. And if you have a tree over here and a tree over there, 300 feet, 50 feet, 25 feet, 1,000 feet, and you have them spread everywhere in between, you're more likely to get pollination from those carrion beetles and flies. And this is how I kind of know in my heart that if I never planted another pawpaw tree again and never did anything else, unless I die and somebody comes and gets my property here and tears it down, destroys everything here, these pawpaws are going to find a way to survive, thrive, and produce fruit. I hope I'm alive and well enough to see it and experience it and eat fresh fruit here every year for a long time. And I definitely hope my kids will enjoy that experience, possible grandkids in the future, and they can, experience on 10 times a greater level because of quantity and knowledge that I've passed down to them. Well, I hope that I could plant some plants in this vlog, but our time is running short again. But I'll just talk about something else I just read about the other day. I don't know if it's UF, but there's an organization out there that is seeking feedback. Actually, I think it's Florida Wildlife Commission, FWC, seeking feedback to figure out plants that insects eat, that bats eat. So they're trying to make like a preserve of plants that will provide insects that bats eat. UF has these big old bat houses off of their campus there by, was it Lake Alice, and they have all this bat guano they take, and they have all these banana trees where I guess they put the guano or whatever on these banana trees and produce bananas. I don't know if I've ever heard of any organization like looking for this specific information to create this specific type of preserve. So kind of exciting. Anyway, I think we really need a little bit of rain, a little bit of moisture in the ground before I plant anything else in the ground, like avocados or whatever. So hopefully soon we'll get some rain and we can start, finishing up this season of the garden vlog.